Hello everyone, welcome back to the Over the Board tournament recap videos. It's been a couple of months since I've last posted one of these because the chess club I go to was closed down during the summer, but they have resumed having tournaments. This time it's monthly. It used to be weekly every Saturday night, but now it's once a month. So I went to the one this past weekend. So I have 4 games to recap for you guys. These games are 25 minutes with 5-second delay. So we're not gaining any increment, but the clock doesn't start winding down for 5 seconds from when the clock is pressed. So yeah, before we jump into the 4 games, I would like to ask, I don't tend to ask often, but I'm like 7 or 8 subs away as to the time of recording from 800 subscribers. So it'd be great if you guys could subscribe if you're new here. A lot of great content to come out. So yeah, more over the board videos, tournament videos, road to 2200 and other videos too. So yeah, sub if you are new here. Let's jump into the very first game. So I am USCF rated 1407, which I think is quite low. I'm still provisional, but after this tournament, I will no longer be provisional. So yeah, I was facing Van Veen, 1171. I faced him before. He's a pretty young kid. I want to say maybe late elementary school, middle school age. So I've played him before. I think I won the very first time, or maybe we drew. I can't remember. But yeah, let's get into the game. So he goes e4, I go e5, and he goes for King's Gambit, which I don't think is what he played last time when we played. I think I actually got white last time he and I played. So I respond with the Folkbier counter Gambit. The engine doesn't really like the King's Gambit. It already gives advantage to black. And I don't even think I played the most principled line, but I play the Folkbier counter Gambit. I find those lines pretty interesting. He takes this pawn, which is correct. If he takes this pawn, then he's losing after queen check here, because he either has to move the queen, or sorry, move the king, which is depressing, or do this and then check, and he loses the rook in the corner. This is very well known. So you have to take the right pawn. That's something I've caught some people out in Rapid and Blitz. So yeah, that's one opening trap to know about. So he took the correct pawn, then I took. Then he went knight here, which defends against this. And then I played knight here. He goes d4, and I take the pawn. And at this point, I'm kind of blitzing out a lot of my moves. This is something I'm going to mention throughout this recap. I'm blitzing out a lot of my moves in all 4 of these games. If you're new here, you won't know this, but if you're a regular, you'll definitely know this, and I've seen it many times. I get low time very easily because I calculate all sorts of lines during the opening and middle game, and I have like 1 to 2 minutes in end games, and that's not very good. So I'm just trying to stay up on the clock. I'm also higher rated, so I feel like if it gets down to a time crunch for my opponents, I generally will be able to beat them. Don't know why it says I'm from Israel and joined 48 minutes ago, but whatever. It's really weird, actually. I don't know why it says that. But anyway, so I'm blitzing out a lot of my opening moves, and my opponent's taking a good bit of time. So he goes here after like 4 or 5 minutes worth of thinking. I think he was just worried about this pawn being defended. So I go here, the best move, takes. Here, the engine likes this, but I find it much more natural to take with the light squared bishop. He castles. I bring up my bishop, getting ready to castle, and then he takes. I castle. He brings his knight out, which I expected, and I move my bishop out of the way by hitting the rook. This was everything I was expecting. The engine doesn't really like that move too much, but I didn't want to come back here and get hit with tempo and stuff, and it's just not great. So and I didn't want to bring my bishop back here. I always want to keep it on this long diagonal because the king in the King's Gambit tends to be quite unsafe because they push their f-pawn. So I wanted to keep it on this diagonal. They move their rook out of the way. Then I bring my knight in. Then they went rook here. Yeah, I during the game, I thought this was a pretty bad move. I didn't really understand it. I understood it after a couple seconds because if I go here, then they're threatening this, hitting my knight, and hitting my bishop, which are both undefended. Or sorry, they're not undefended, but this is undefended, and this is being hit. So I saw that, and I thought it was pretty easily parried by going here. And then he pushed d4, which I kind of expected, or sorry, d5, which I expected. So I gave a check, which the engine doesn't really like, but I feel like it's very natural because I wanted the king to move over here, and then I bring my knight here and just kind of centrally place it like here and putting pressure on this pawn. I didn't really want to bring my knight back here, which was the only other square I could go to. Could come here, but then it's just kind of getting trapped, and it's kind of dicey. So here, then knight here. Then it is this, which is basically the only move. Yeah, every other move is just drawing. This is the only move, and he played it after like 7 or 8 minutes of thinking. So again, my opponent's using a lot of time on some of these moves. I kind of expected that move, so I pretty much blitzed out my move because I was expecting this. I was expecting that, or I was expecting, well, sorry, not that, but like this, just to get the other rook over. I was expecting those, so I kind of knew what I was going to do regardless of which move they did. So here, then I pushed f5, which is really the only move that I have. I can't drop back because then they hit you with this, and your bishop is lost. So I go f5, counter striking, and they play a pretty bad move. They just played a blunder, which is rook back. The line that I calculated, which is in fact the best line for white to go for, is here, here, and then here, and then I come here, and then they take, I take, then they come here, or sorry, my bad. I take, or sorry, they take, I take, A takes, that's right, I have to move my rook out of the way, I don't have time to capture here, and then they come here, and I something I've been getting in the habit of doing during my games is writing down a quick evaluation on the side of my like notation book, just to see like, okay, move 20, what do I think the evaluation is? Just so when I go and put the moves into chess.com or whatever website, I can kind of see if I was correct. I think that's a really good skill to be able to understand what the evaluation is in any position. So when I got to this position, I evaluated it as +1 for white, and it's in fact +2, +3. I kind of had a feeling this was good for them because they have this pawn. Yes, it's a little bit imbalanced because the pieces are different. So I have 2 rooks, a queen, and a minor piece. They have just one of each. They have 2 minor pieces, a queen and a rook. But this pawn is kind of weak, but this pawn can start coming, and they can start, especially if they're able to get something like this. If they were able to have their pawn here, this would be quite scary for me, actually. But it's still an interesting position. So none of that ended up happening. They just simply went back with their rook, and I captured the pawn because it was free. We didn't go down that whole line, and now I'm better. So then I should also clarify, when I was evaluating the position that didn't end up happening, I obviously didn't write that in I was just kind of mentally thinking what would the evaluation be in that position. I assessed it as +1. But here I didn't really need to do much assessment because I knew I was better. I was up a pawn. My pieces are pretty well placed. These 2 bishops are very nice. If I'm able to do something, well, if I'm able to do something like this and get this here, the king is always super weak. It's literally out of squares, which is always nice. But my opponent brings the king here. Obviously, I'm not going to come here now. So I see that I can just win another pawn. So I take the knight, takes the bishop, then I take here, which is all good. I didn't calculate one move further, which they have queen here. As soon as they played it, because they're getting out of the line of this fork, that was the initial reason that I wanted to win that pawn, because I saw that there wasn't really a clean way for them to win to keep the bishop. They can, but I see now that they have a pin on me, and I'm blitzing out a lot of my moves, which was not very good. But within like 20 seconds, I was kind of resigned to losing my knight. The reason that it says it's still -1 is because you can actually just save the knight. What I did in the game was a blunder. I did king h8, but I can do this, and as soon as they come here, I can just bring my queen here, and my knight is no longer pinned. I'm hitting the queen, and this is the best line. But after like 2 or 3 minutes of thinking, I moved my king over, and this is just a clear blunder. Now here, and they blitz this out, and I'm down a piece. I'm already up 2 pawns, so it's not like I'm just losing a full piece and I'm down tons of material, but it's still not great for me. But as a very famous chess grandmaster once said, it's not the first blunder that always does you in, it's usually the second one. And I blundered second time. This is just bad. Like it's not necessarily a blunder, like I'm losing tons and tons of material. It's more like, why are you trading pieces when you're already down material? So they trade here, takes, and I bring my other rook, which is, yeah, again, not a great move. It goes from +4 to +5.5. So they just take, I take here, then they take, and now this is the position. It's +5 for my opponent. We both have queens, we both have bishops, but they're up a knight. I have 5 pawns to their 3, but if like this pawn was over here, like if this pawn was here and this pawn was here and I had like a 4-on-1, then the position would probably be pretty drawish / maybe even winning for me, because I have like 3 outside pawns, or well, I guess in that variation 2 outside pawns and another one. contested by this pawn, but it's a pretty easy pawn to pick off. So, but that's not the position. This is the position, and it's pretty losing for me. So they bring their king in, which I didn't really think was very good. I go h6, which is the best move. I just need to give my king some space, but also I kind of want to expand on this side. Then they jump their knight in. I kind of had a feeling my opponent was misplaying this, so I felt like I had some kind of drawing chances potentially, or maybe even winning if I'm able to kind of put their king in some kind of net, because again, this bishop is still pretty good. So I give him a check, and in this situation, my opponent actually tried checking me. They didn't see that it was check. I guess it's a matter of opinion, but I whenever I'm at the tournaments, I always hear other people at other boards, and sometimes I'll hear people say check, 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 you know, stuff like that. I don't do that. It's up to personal preference, I think. Most of the people I've played, they never say check. I think only one opponent I've played says check whenever they check me. But I don't personally do that. I kind of just expect my opponent to see that they're in check. But they didn't see that. They tried moving their knight, and I had to be like, oh no, you're in check. And then they were like, oh, okay, sorry. And then they went here, which was the best move. If they try and go here, I think that's just a knight blunder. Yeah, that's all that is. So they play queen here. I give a check. The engine prefers this check, potentially to pick off this pawn, but I don't know. I'm not really thinking about winning this pawn, especially when my king is so weak. So I give a check here. They come here, and I play a move that allows my opponent to mate me. I play here. It's just mate in 5 because of like this sequence, which is kind of a hard sequence to see. Or no, sorry. What is the sequence? It's I can't remember. You have to like blunder. You have to sack the knight here, here. Oh, queen e8. That's what it is. Yeah, here, here, and then here. And then I think this is just yeah, this is just mate. I don't even know if I would see that in in a rapid game, even if I had a lot of time. So my opponent, maybe I would have, but it seems very odd and unnatural and unhuman to just sack your knight for mate. But maybe I would have seen that. But my opponent gives this check, which isn't the best. I move here. I know it seems very natural to try and attack the knight and also attack the bishop, and oh, they're going to lose something, but I just didn't want my opponent to have too many checks. And even if I'm able to win this knight, again, like we showed in the previous variation, my king is so weak that they have so many checks, and the queen is always going to defend the bishop, so it's tough. So I didn't do that. I went here so that they didn't have any more checks, and my opponent blundered mate back. They went here, trying to get something like this or you know, whatever. But I executed the mate within a couple seconds. Here, take the bishop, and it's mate. So I won that game pretty undeservedly. I also felt bad for my opponent because there was like 7 or 8 people around our table watching us, and it's never a good feeling to blunder mate when there's tons of people watching. So I felt kind of bad. It's happened to me as well. I've blundered mate when other people are watching, and it's a pretty bad feeling, but my opponent's very good. He's leagues better than I was at his age. I didn't even know chess up until like a decade after whatever his age is at right now. So he's going to be a great player one day, but I'm not saying he's not a great player now, but he'll be able to not, you know, blunder these kind of mates and stuff in the future. But yeah, I was able to win that game, and yeah, let's get into the second game. So let me make sure this is the correct one. Yep. So this game, let me get the names up for you. I played as white, so you guys can see our ratings. And then I played a little girl called Evelyn. She's definitely the youngest ever player I've played OTB. She couldn't have been older than 6, 7 years old, maybe 8 max. Like she was so young. She seemed very shy as well. Like she, you know, when we shook hands, like she was like looking down. And when I said, let's have a good game, she was like, let's have a good game. Like she was just very quiet, kind of adorable actually. But the thing you always have to worry about, I saw that she also won her first game against a strong opponent. So the thing you always have to worry about is if you face someone who's really young. You know, in my mind, I was like, as soon as I saw she played the Sicilian, I was like, oh, okay. She's like 2200 level strength. I'm about to get decimated. So this should be fun. So I played the Smith Mora, as I always do. I'll never change that, even for OTB. Here, and she doesn't take. She pushes d6, which I know is not a good move. I've seen this position a million times. I've gone through the analysis board a million times trying to figure out different variations if they accept and don't accept. There's so many different ways that they don't have to accept. They can go here, they can go here, they can go here, they can go here, they can go here. So I knew that the best move is to take, but me being me, I didn't want to take. I'm much happier to play a position that the computer deems as worse, I would be able to play that position better than this position, personally for me. I know that sounds stupid, but certain positions, especially gambits, I seem to play much better. So we're just developing very naturally. She pushed the pawn here and then developed this way so that she wouldn't get hit with tempo. So I take the queen, defending this piece. She developed her knight, which I expected. I pinned the knight. She unpins the knight so that she's starting to take. So I come back. I don't want to come to this square because that's the square I'm going to try to get my knight and my bishop out. So she hits me with a6. I go back. She goes g6, looking to fianchetto her bishop. I pin the knight, which is, it's not really a pin. I actually didn't really like this move. As soon as I played it, again, I'm trying to blitz out a lot of the opening. At this point, I've lost literally 0 time, because every time she makes a move, I immediately made a move after. I don't even write any of the notation down. I did, obviously, so I could put it into chess.com, but I'm playing incredibly fast. So I castle, she castles, I bring my rook to the open file, and then she hits me with h6. And I go back here. I kind of had a feeling this might not be great because it could be hit. I could immediately be hit with tempo, and I have to either come back here and here. So why not just immediately come back here so that this doesn't come with tempo? But my reasoning is like, if I come here, she's likely to do this anyway. So like if she wants to hit me with tempo, I don't really care too much. I may be losing I'm probably losing a tempo, but it's not that big a deal at the end of the day. She hits me with b4, and I have an option to come here or here. I wanted to line it up here just in case there's any other threats over here. I was liking the bishop coming here because it does pin this pawn, and I would maybe be able to do something like this and takes. But you know, I didn't necessarily want to go into that sort of stuff right now. So, or at the time, I should say. So I just bring the bishop back. Then she goes knight here, which I didn't really feel like was during the game. I remember thinking like, wow, that seems like a very strong move to, you know, push this and just kind of expand and be very scary. But I didn't really think it was like that strong a move, to be honest. So I just bring my queen back, just looking to develop my knight. She pins me. I kind of expected that. I bring my knight in, and then she brings her knight in. And I kind of saw a variation where I would be able to win either of the bishops. So I was happy to give up my bishop pair. It's not a great move, but here, and then I push h3. And one of these two bishops is going to be lost because either she comes here and then I trap it and I win the bishop, or she comes here and then I take this bishop. So she opts to keep her light squared bishop. I take, and my whole game plan now is to kind of play against these two pawns, these two stacked pawns. My pawns are quite good. Yeah, this is pushed, but I don't really think that's much of a weakness. In fact, I think that's quite nice. There might be situations where the knight, it's kind of far away, but you know, you could imagine a world where, okay, that's not how knights move, but the knight might want to get here at some point. So it's being blocked out. She defends the pawn. This obviously, I didn't mention it, but this knight move obviously offers a queen trade, which she does not. She obviously has to protect this pawn. So I instinctively move my queen here because, you know, if she wants to keep the queens on the board, I'm happy to as well. She brings her queen there. I bring my rook here, and then I kind of anticipated her next move. So as soon as she played it and pressed the clock, I played my move and pressed the clock, which she's just hitting my queen with her bishop. So she takes my queen, takes my rook, and I thought this was quite nice. I actually evaluated this position as plus 0.5 for me. Going back to what I mentioned, trying to figure out what the evaluation is at any moment. I usually do it like every 10-15 moves, or when there's like a very critical position and there's so many lines to consider. That's not the case in this position. Every move is, not every move, but it's pretty hard to blunder in this kind of a position, I would say. So I'm actually incorrect by a full, you know, 1 point basically. It's actually in her favor. I didn't really get that impression during the game. So she brings her rook here. I bring my knight here. Which I didn't think was like an amazing move, but I kind of wanted to get rid of this bishop, just so I was the only one with the light squared bishop on this diagonal, which is a pretty nice diagonal to have. She brings her knight in. She takes my rook, I take back, and then she takes here. And at this point, I definitely felt like it was like +1 for me. And it says plus 0.2. It seems very drawish, and it is because all the material is equal. It's a 4-on-4 and a 3-on-2. Or sorry, a 5-on-4, but a pretty bad 5-on-4. These are three. There's like this concept in chess known as like a good 3 versus a bad 2. I don't know if anybody else has heard it. It doesn't have to necessarily be 3v2. It could be any kind of number of pawns, but these are 3 very nice pawns against 2 pretty bad pawns. These pawns are pretty difficult to defend, especially with the knight being over here, but it's actually not that hard for the knight to get back. And it's always eyeing up this pawn if I move my rook. So I kind of felt like I had a better position and that this endgame was better for me, and I was happy to play it. So I bring my bishop here, trying to do something like this. Trying to do something like this to either, or this to win this pawn, or win one of these pawns, because if they come here, then I come here attacking this pawn, and they could come here. Just kidding, no they can't. So I was looking to do something like this just to check and win this pawn. So she brings her rook to the open file. I come here, which is the best move. She gets into d2, and then I give a check, and then she blocks, which I accurately assessed. At this point, I should mention we both have very similar time. It's probably around 15 minutes apiece. It took me a minute, but I was like, I think that's a blunder, because I take this pawn, she takes this, and then I play the best move, which is h4, removing that knight, and then I take this pawn, and I'm up a pawn. Now I assess this position as +2. During the game, it's +1.3, so not terribly off. I'm always going to have an advantage here because I'm up a pawn, but I also have not the greatest pawns, and they're disconnected now. And this bishop, I can never really trade this bishop off because that would just be a completely equal endgame because they take here. I have this one pawn, they have another, but it's just a draw. So she comes here trying to unpin herself. I bring my rook to the open file, and then she comes here and try and figure out which one of these bishop moves is best. Well, there's actually two that are pretty equally the same, and then one that's just not great. Once you figure that out, go ahead and figure out which one I did. I did the one that's not so great, which is bishop all the way back. It wants you to keep the bishop here or here. I know it seems odd because you're kind of blocking the rook. Yeah, bishop d5 is the best move, because you're continuing to defend this pawn. But the reason that it's bad to come here is because she's able to start pushing this pawn. I sacrifice the pawn and then take here, and then it's very difficult for me to win that position. So I start pushing this pawn, and then she blunders. And I take the pawn, she takes, and what I should have done is come rook here. And it's not completely clear why it's +4. It's pretty clear actually, because she comes here and I basically just start marching this pawn up. Like that's the whole thing. Bishop c6 is the best move. I don't want to say that's unfindable, but it's not a completely natural move. I guess I get it to come here and here, and you can't do that here because your pawn is blocking that way. So this is what I should have gone for, and it's honestly kind of pathetic since I had so much time on the clock. Like if I was like the last 2-3 minutes and it's just time scrambled, then maybe it can be excused, but I have so much time on the clock. I should be able to see this, but I didn't go for that. I take, she takes, and then I come here hitting the rook, and this is a complete draw. And then she comes here, and it's +1 again. I completely assessed that every move after this point was a draw. So I push, she comes over here, I come here, and then I offered a draw and she accepted. Which, considering our ratings, looking back, was quite stupid because she's 1,200 and I'm 1,400. So I believe I lost a good chunk of points just from that draw. I should have tried fighting on. This is +2, this position. This is +2. Like I have no idea why I didn't try and draw this position. Win this position. I could easily come here and cut through. Yeah, bishop d5 is the best move to try and push, and the king has trouble getting in, and I should be able to win this. I can even wrap around this way, and yeah, I should have tried fighting harder. But yeah, so it ended up being a draw this game. Very good opponent she is. Let's get into the third game. Let me write the names once again. I played white in back-to-back games, and this one was against Matthew. He was very similar age to me, I want to say, maybe mid to late 20s or maybe mid 30s. He had really cool brown and silver hair. It's like the coolest looking hair I've ever seen. 1263, I believe, was his rating, very close to that at least. And we get another Sicilian, and we get another Smith Morra. And this time, it's an accepted Smith Morra. So I was very happy to see that. I have an unbelievably good record with the Smith Morra OTB. I think in the 8 or 9 times I've played, I've won 7, drawn 1, and lost 1. So I have a very good record with the Smith Morra. So a lot of the opening moves are quite standard. I'm not going to really talk about them too much. So I castle, and then they take. This move immediately indicated to me that this is not an opening that they're familiar with, because taking here is just not good. I know it seems very natural. You're isolating my 2 pawns here. You're getting rid of my knight, which is always not great, but they're giving up the bishop pair. I have these 2 bishops, which, as you'll see later in the game, become quite monstrous. So they come here, and these past 2 moves just immediately indicated to me that I'm not saying they're a weak player, but I just had a feeling like I'd be able to win this game. because this is just not the correct way to play this position. If I come here, this is not a great move. It actually, the engine has kind of a sick line where you go here, here, here. Or well, no, there was a way to, it wants you to like trap the queen somehow. Queen e2, f6, bishop d2, here, here. Oh no, there was some line I calculated last night where the queen ends up getting trapped, and that's why it wants you to sack yet another pawn. Anyway, we're not going to go down that line. That's not what ended up happening. So I just defended the pawn. I knew they were going to jump their knight in, but I was happy to take, and then push f4 just to expand. And I kind of evaluated this position. I actually said I thought it was +4. I know this is kind of a crazy position to think is +4, but just their lack of development, as you'll see soon, my opponent had a very difficult time trying to castle. So I just felt like this position was overwhelming for me. Their king is still stuck in the middle. They need 2 moves at least to castle. And those 2 moves never ended up coming. So they moved their queen over here. And one of the best moves is bishop c3, just to make it so they have a hard time bringing their knight here and castling. But I went rook here. At this point, I'm not blitzing out a lot of my moves, but I feel quite confident that even if my move isn't best, it's top 2 or 3 engine lines. So they bring their knight there, which was what I expected. This is what I was waiting for, actually. As soon as they go there is when I was, threatening to come here. And if they castle, then I win a free knight. And I can't push this because then I just take and I'm creating all sorts. I'd probably take like this, actually. So they bring their knight over here, and this position I evaluated as +6. As you can see, my evaluation skills aren't amazing. I just kept feeling like these moves they're making are not best. I just had this feeling like this position was absolutely crushing for me because their bishop is still here, is going to have a very difficult time being developed. And my next move is actually here to basically play against this bishop, because if I come here and they do this and I do something random and they try and come here, it's just mate. It's just mate. So I knew the move I played wasn't one of the moves I spent like 7 or 8 minutes calculating was here. I saw that they could come in. I would come here threatening mate. They take my rook with check and then here. And I didn't really think there was an easy way for them to stop mate. But there is. They would come here. I saw this as well. I saw that they come here. I go king h1, and in this position, I thought it was like plus 0.1, plus. I knew I was still winning because their king can never be castled. This bishop is terrible. This rook is in the corner. They're basically playing with a queen against my queen and 2 bishops and my rook that will basically be coming alive soon. So I knew this position was winning for me, but I kind of didn't want to sacrifice material in a game where I felt like I could win with more pieces on the board and without sacrificing stuff needlessly. So I didn't go for that. They developed their knight here. I bring the rook here. Then they played the best move, which is a6. I believe that's their best move. Or sorry, queen a5 to hit this bishop. That's actually fair. I didn't see that actually during my analysis last night. So they go a6. And then I come here threatening to push. And if the knight goes away, then it's mate. Then they push this, which is their best move. But it's like in this position, like what would you recommend for white? Like this is all just very lost for them. It's not great. So they push b5, which I just completely ignore that move. I just push f5 because if they take, I take, and as you can see, mate is being announced on the board. Queen h2 is the best move to give up the queen, so I kind of knew I was getting close to mating them. So when I pushed f5, they spent, and I have still up to, I want to say like 17, 18 minutes, and they have close to 10, 11, maybe like closer to 15 actually. I think they're spending some time on their moves, but it's funny that the engine announces mate in 20 right now. Basically a little under mate in 20. But after spending a lot of time on their next move, they just blundered mate in 1. Yeah, I don't know. I could have, I was looking at their position and just thinking, like, how do you even recommend a move for black here? Like, what is their best move? King d8 is their best move, actually, as it turns out. In this position, I actually don't know what I would have played. I maybe would have played, honestly, me being me, I would have probably taken here, they take here, and then I probably would have just come here, trying to just like make it so this rook. I actually don't know what I would have played if I'm being completely honest. I don't know if that's, I didn't calculate king d8. Because it's just miserable. Like there's just no hope for black. But I ended up checkmating them and I won my 3rd game. So I'm currently 2.5 out of 3, the highest in my section. And I'm finding a lot of these games quite easy, which is funny considering I blundered in my very first game, nearly the game away. But I feel like I'm getting these positions that I quite like, and they're pretty easy for me. So yeah, let's get into the fourth and final game. About 30 minutes into this recap. I was hoping this recap would be exactly 30 minutes, but I take a while. Alomgir is the opponent. He's like 1563 or 1563 or 1562 or something like that. I can't remember exactly. And I'm 1407. I've played this person before. I won the last time we played, and then we've played each other twice. Sorry, not this game, but prior to this game I'm about to show you, we played each other twice. I won one and then he won one, so we're pretty evenly matched. He's a very unorthodox kind of player, as you'll see here. He played as white in this game, and we got a Grunfeld, which I was very happy to see. But then he played a move that I've never seen before, which was Queen A4. And I knew this was bad because I've seen so many different Grunfeld videos. I've seen so many different high-level games of the Grunfeld by Anish Giri, Maxime Vacher-Lagrave, who's like one of the leading experts on the Grunfeld in the world, an unbelievable grandmaster. Daniel Naroditsky videos. Like, I've seen enough of the Grunfeld to know that this is just not a move. It's not bad. White, it's basically even, but... And the biggest problem that I had this game was I was just developing and doing things way too quickly. Every one of these moves were both basically blitzing out, and then I blitzed out knight here, and that's a bad move. That is just that's simply a bad move. As soon as I played it, I kind of looked at it like, that's quite a bad move, actually. I might be in a bit of trouble here. They played bishop here, which is not the best move, and after, I kid you not, 15 seconds, I played here and blundered the game away. I didn't see takes, and then takes, and my knight is pinned, and I'm like, this is maximum 1500 level tactic. Like, I didn't even think about this variation. Like, I was just like, oh, I'll just develop my bishop, castle, whatever. My knight is pinned for now, but once I castle, it will all be good. So yeah, I after like 6 or 7 minutes of thinking, it wasn't even thinking, it was mostly like 30 seconds of thinking and 5 minutes of me getting pissed off because I don't really like the way this person plays, to be quite honest. Like, I played them before, and when I absolutely obliterated them in one game, they just do things in a very unorthodox way. And if you follow this channel for long enough, I find people who do things in very unorthodox ways to try and create all sorts of crazy stuff. It just bothers me, which is crazy to think because I'm a Gambit player, so I do a lot of off-the-wall stuff, kind of crazy, whatever, very complex positions. But I guess when it's done against me, it annoys me because I struggle against those positions, I guess, is maybe the rationale or the line of thinking why it makes me annoyed. So I played the best move, the only move, which is bishop here. They take, they move their queen here, and like I said in the very first game, it's not the first blunder that does you in, because this is +3. This is pretty bad. But the game against my first opponent was +5 at one point, and I was able to win that game. This person's much better. They're 1500 rated, so I don't know if I'd have been able to come back, but at least I should have just castled and brought my rooks here, and done what I obviously moved my queen first and brought my rook here and tried to create some counterplay, whatever else, and we have a game. But I blundered again. As soon as I played bishop here, I almost stuck my hand out to resign. I wanted to wait to see if they played the correct move, which they did after a minute of analyzing, because they just come here. And I'm completely lost here. What I did, just to see if they would accidentally blunder, or not blunder, but play the wrong move, was here. And if they take like this, I'm somewhat surviving. I'm still worse, but I'm somewhat surviving. But they take here correctly. My queen is being hit. My rook is in the corner. This is actually just mate. If I do anything else, if I just move my queen, this is just checkmate. So I stuck my hand out and resigned and drove home pretty pissed off. I was very angry with myself because this is a 1600 level tactic that I should have been able to see, and I'm trying to do this thing where I play really quickly in the opening and just blitz things out and have more time in the middle and endgame to calculate all these crazy variations that I want, sacrifices and crazy lines and ways to make the position more complex. But I ended up that'll hurt you in the end when you just kind of blitz out moves. You need to spend time in the opening, especially when you have never seen a move before, like queen e2, or sorry, queen a4 check, which I'm going to thoroughly analyze because what's funny is like any one of these moves is like even here is like probably it's still +1 and you just give away this pawn, or you even can let them But it's still better than, I literally picked the worst option. Like that's or even here, like I just, it just felt super natural just to develop my knight. And so anyway, the one thing I was worried about here is then here, and putting pressure on this pawn, and here the best engine move is c5, which is a very Grunfeld move. That's actually, that's one of the main moves. That's the whole point of the Grunfeld, is to be able to push c5. But you could have given me this position for 30 minutes, for 2 hours, and I would have never thought c5 would have been the move. I probably just would have like done something like this, which, yeah, that blunders this, but like at least that's better than just trying to go into the crazy complications with. I don't even understand that move. Like, why can't they just take? Like, I don't understand. D4 is the idea. I see. And then there, like, this is why I love the Grunfeld, because you get such crazy complex positions, but it's so hard to. It's the hardest opening in chess to learn, probably, the Grunfeld. That and like the Ruy Lopez, with the amount of theory that's in them. But I don't personally see that as a reason to not study the opening. But because I think learning the Grunfeld has made me a better player and will continue to make me a better player. I should have just studied more lines. Like, when there was like a week where I really studied the Grunfeld, and I studied like a million different things they could do in this position. They could go here, they could go here. I even saw queen here. I know what to do after queen here, here, here. Like, I know so many different moves, but this is just one of them I didn't know, and I wanted to just blitz things out. So yeah, I ended the tournament on 2.5 out of 4. My USCF rating went up because I drew against somebody who's 200 rating points below me, and the two people I did beat were pretty well below me. I didn't really gain that much rating. I think I gained like 10 rating maximum or something like that. So yeah, the story of this this tournament is I played well in some of the games and was able to create complications to be able to check my opponent, who was just objectively winning. They had checkmate on the board, but it's a pretty hard checkmate to see, to be fair. So I just need to play a little bit slower. I don't need to be blitzing everything up. But yeah, let me know how you guys liked this recap. If you're interested in seeing more OTB recaps, I'll be bringing them once a month, basically, because I will be going to all of them once a month. And I live in New York, so there's a lot of tournaments that happen in New York City. I have a very good friend that goes to like the Bushwick Chess Club. So I'm hoping to go to New York City to play chess, both in tournaments as well as like there's all sorts of people playing outside and hustlers, and I was going to do some kind of like a vlog style thing. So let me know what you guys might think of something like that. But yeah, not super annoyed with my performance. I'm very annoyed with my last game. If I had even drawn my last game, I would have won my section, and I would have been happy with that. But it is what it is, and we move on. Now, you always learn things in losses, as Olenna Tyrell said in Game of Thrones. So yeah, or sorry, I guess it was lessons in defeat. I guess Jaime Lannister is the one that said that, actually. Never mind. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, everyone. Consider dropping a sub, typing a nice comment or a mean comment. Any engagement's great. Like the video or dislike it. Do whatever you want, and join the Discord, because there's a lot of fun people there too. Yeah, I will see you guys in the next video for your regularly scheduled Journey to 2200 content. See you then. Bye bye.